Hi, everybody. Carol here. Thanks for joining me for more Insights from Spirit. If you are liking these and you want to see more, I hope that you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel and get notifications. You can also visit my website where I will keep those posted and up to date as well. So today I want to share something that came up in a session. And again, this was something that was very, very rare, and I believe that it is very, very rare. So let me begin by just kind of sharing how the session unfolded. I am sharing this with permission, but I am changing the names and I'm not giving any details. So we're going to talk about John and we're going to talk about Sarah. Sarah was a daughter who passed very early, old enough that there was a relationship with her father, John. So she didn't pass as a toddler, right? Sarah had an illness and unfortunately did not live a long and full life. Upon passing, as to be expected, John was devastated by the loss of his daughter. As a result of that, John sought to make a connection with his daughter through a variety of different mediums. Unfortunately, this did not work very well, and John had a very, very difficult time finding a medium who could connect. There was actually only one, and this particular medium is well known, very well respected in the community. She has a long waiting list, so it can be difficult, and there can be a time period before you get to see her, as well as it's a reasonable fee considering her level of success. Now, this is important because of the message. That's the reason I'm sharing that. So what happened is that recently John finally passed, and this has been within, I believe, the last 6 months. It's been a fairly recent one. As a result, the person was hoping to hear from John because she was friends. This is the sitter. Sitter was friends with John and wanted to know if John was doing okay, was he happy, and was he now with his daughter, Sarah. So this ended up where John stepped forward and talked about what was going on and sharing evidence and information so that we knew that it was John, to be sure. And then something came up that was a bit of a surprise. And that was the fact that John and his daughter Sarah actually showed up as well to talk about the fact that Sarah purposely only connected through this one medium. And the reason that Sarah did this was because it was very important for John to deal with what was going on inside of himself. He needed to deal with the grief. He needed to deal with his self as opposed to constantly seeking these outside sources for his comfort. And as a result of that, Sarah talked about only connecting through this one medium that I mentioned. Sarah also said something that was incredibly emotional for me because I could feel Sarah's pain. And she said it was the most difficult thing that she had to do was to stand there in spirit and watch her father here in the living world suffer so much. It agonized her, and I began to cry, something that we as mediums are supposed to avoid, an emotional attachment. And unfortunately, sometimes things become so emotional. I don't always do well at that. But it devastated Sarah to be in spirit, to watch how pained and how much suffering John was in his physical life. Now, as John was coming through, having been on the other side of the veil, he understood the reason for the lack of the connection. And while it was incredibly painful for him here in the physical world, he realized on some level that he had failed to do some of the inner work that he was supposed to be doing. And he recognized this great love and sacrifice that his daughter Sarah made by not connecting with mediums for him and how difficult it was for her. So as they were now together in spirit again from this very joyous place, this very happy, connected place, there was an understanding of the difficulty that took place in communicating. So the reason that I share this is for lots of reasons, actually. And it's not just about being a medium and making excuses for why connections don't occur. First of all, in my experience, this is very rare. 9 times out of the 10, a spirit will show up, will make a connection. This was a specific circumstance. And so we don't want to always say, well, it's the medium's fault or it's mine as the sitter's. There may be a reason that the spirit is choosing not to connect. Maybe it's because they're not ready. Maybe it's because we as the sitter are not ready. Maybe it's because the medium is not the right person, or the medium doesn't have the right talent or the right skill for them to be a good conduit. So there are lots of reasons for what I call poor communications or missed communications. But this one was exceptionally rare. So it's interesting, though, that it was intentional. And when Sarah, as the daughter, connected through this one medium, it worked, because the daughter wanted to make sure that when John was getting the connection, he was willing to take the time and wait for it, and that he was willing to invest the money to do it. Because the higher side of this was that he needed to deal with the inner stuff. And had he done that at a more and deeper level, those connections may have come into place. So the first aspect of that is sometimes we as mediums don't get the connections that a sitter wants. And it may be for a variety of reasons that are outside of both the medium and the sitter's control. It's important for us to realize that when we wish to connect with spirit, we are dealing with a living conscious being who is aware of our life paths, what we best need for our highest good. And so this is the reason mediums we're not going to connect you with a loved one and give you all the answers you want. It just doesn't work that way. We may get exactly what we want and need because it's beneficial in healing, but we may not, because there's something that we need to be doing, something that we need to be looking at. In a majority of the cases within the mediumship reading, there will come some advice or some guidance to move a person in the right direction. This can be a part of the message that comes after the evidence. So it may be helping steer you in the right direction, but it may not always be the exact answers that we're looking for. So this is something else to look at. So I want to take this now out of context for people who are mediums, because I know so many who watch these videos are not mediums but are interested in the insights. So it's important, if you're not a medium, to also think about this. What is our role in healing ourselves when we have someone who passes? And so think about this. Sarah had to watch her father suffer. She had to watch her father struggle with grief and depression and a lot of the things. And as a result of that, Sarah suffered terribly as well. We need to realize that our relationships, our loved ones, are maybe not here in the physical domain, but they are still with us. They are still aware of what we are feeling and going through. And in a way, we owe it to our loved ones, to the people that we love, to be happy, to be joyful, to heal, to come out of this grief. And we can certainly grieve and miss them every day. But when we find a sense of joy and faith in knowing that they're okay, and then while they're not with us the way we would like them to be, they're still alive and happy and doing well. But they can be at their best by us being at our best. And I want you to think about a relationship you probably have with someone here in the physical world. You know, a spouse, a child, a parent. When you see them struggling, how hurt are you? How much do you want to fix it? How pained are you? How much effort do you try to put into helping them? And so this is where we have a responsibility to those that we love to do the inner work, to move beyond our grief, to move beyond our pain and our suffering, because those who love us are feeling that. They are walking the journey with us because they are still around. And so we want to do that work. This allows them to be as joyful as they possibly can. This also comes in terms of forgiving our loved ones in spirit, of moving on, of letting go of the past, because when we heal, they heal. This is how interconnected we are. Now, we can certainly do that here in the physical world. And I think that we should, but sometimes those clarities and those relationships become even more intimate when one or more passes to the other side, because suddenly the veil is lifted and there's clarity on one person's side. For example, Sarah's side, where she had to suffer terribly because she couldn't assist her father until he did some of the work that he needed to do. So this puts the responsibility on us as individuals, whether we're connected as mediums or not, to doing the work that is necessary, to being as happy and as joyful as we possibly can. The final thing I would say out of this is I do, obviously, because of this work, I believe that mediumship can be extremely healing and very beneficial. It can help people have a sense of faith that there is life after death. It can provide these guidance from spirit. It can provide the connections from spirit. But mediumship should never be a crutch. Some mediums are very adamant about not doing a reading within, a certain time frame and not allowing individuals to make it a habit. Ideally, we want to gain those connections for ourselves. I understand that that isn't always possible. Some people don't have an interest or an inclination for it. But it's just, so it's okay to use this as a tool, but certainly it should not become a crutch. And mediums have an ethical responsibility to be sure that it doesn't become that. And that you, as the sitter, recognize that you have a responsibility to do your part as well. And I have seen this from my own experience in working with individuals who have come to me in the past on a more regular basis, is that there's kind of a decline effect in terms of how successful I can be at working with them. And generally that is because once I get to know them, I can start to kind of get a little doubtful about whether or not I'm being as evidential as I need to be. So I lose some of my connection. However, I have other people that are very dear to me, and we continue to have very, very strong mediumship connections. But a big part of that is both of us are growing and maturing. The other individual that is involved with receiving from me is moving forward, is advancing, is growing. They are an integral part of their own growth process. And as a result of that, spirit continues to make positive connections. So this means I no longer am a crutch, I'm just a tool. And so I think this is important to recognize in mediumship that we need to discern, are we being a tool for that person? Are we providing them with something that perhaps they can't do on their own to help them move forward, and they're actively moving forward, vice constantly being something that, well, I'll go to this person for that, or I'll go to this person for that. In that particular case, we're going to find that spirit may cease to be as effective. So this one was a little bit longer, but I think there was a lot out of this experience between John and Sarah that talks about the value of mediumship, that talks about understanding failed connections in mediumship, but at a much deeper and personal level for everyone, even those who are not mediums, is our responsibility to be joyful, to heal, to grow, to be happy, because when we do, our loved ones do, and they don't stop being aware, and they don't stop suffering when we are suffering. So I hope you will think about this and find ways to find healing and growth and joy in your own life to move forward so that your loved ones in spirit can do the same. All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I hope you will subscribe and look forward to providing more insight soon. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.